Hello and welcome to IdeaGen TV's Acceleration Summit series. Today we are excited to have with us Ernest Coney, the Chief Executive Officer at the Corporation to Develop Communities of Tampa. Ernest, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being with here today, and we are excited to hear the insights that you bring. So let's start by learning a little bit more about the work that you lead in the Suncoast region of Florida, aimed at building more resilient, thriving, inclusive communities. Tell us a little bit about the work and initiatives that you're leading.
So thank you again for having me on today. The CDC really focuses on three major disparities: disparities in education, employment, and housing. And when you really begin to look at those disparities, they've been things that we've really had to focus on throughout history, from the civil rights issues on through to current states of affairs. But we're really excited to really focus on those and really help people to really have opportunities to graduate from high school and go on to college, which was a major disparity in some of our communities where only 40% of the kids even graduated from high school. And then, of course, to focus on employment, where at the time in the early 90s, we had really high unemployment, to now be able to talk about that movement and that growth, to move not only from like hospitality style of employment opportunities to more innovation and high wage jobs and high demand jobs as well. And then, of course, with housing, it's always critically important, especially as a wealth mechanism and a community stabilization standpoint as well. So we're really excited to focus on those three drivers, and we have a lot of different programs that may touch on those in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are some incredible initiatives, and I can see how they're absolutely essential at a local community level. So, how do you exactly choose your target population to work with? How do you choose particular issues to address?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. One of the key ingredients is making sure that we have community input and engagement. That's what really makes our programs and services sustainable. So first and foremost, it's something that the community has determined as a need, and we do that through community surveys. We also do that in partnerships with the cities and the counties that we partner with when they do their strategic analysis as well. So the first part of it is just making sure that you have that strong community input to really understand what the community is asking for, and so that it's a bottom up approach. So we're not coming in dictating what programs should work or trying to create movement around that. It's actually a groundswell from the community. So we've had to take pivots before. So if you can imagine, during the Great Recession, previous to that, we were really focused on creating home ownership through housing education as well as building houses. But during the Great Recession, the community began to talk about, having the need to stay in their homes and not lose their homes. So we really began to focus on foreclosure mitigation counseling services. So we had to pivot. And then, of course, instead of building new houses, we had to go in and start helping families to rehab houses after post the Recession, to do acquisition rehab to put those houses back in markets or to keep those families in there through the foreclosure mitigation counseling. So having a true understanding of what the community needs are and having them engaged is definitely critical to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing the needs of the community instead of setting them for them, I can see how that's absolutely essential to building those communities. And it seems like this is kind of when leaders come into play within these communities. And so, what advice do you have for other leaders who have great ideas but might not know how to bring them to fruition or scale?
Yeah. So one of the first things is never be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes as leaders, or sometimes you're put in a position, and you don't want to seem like you don't have the answer, but always feel like, as a great leader, you don't have to always have the answer. You can depend on others and surround yourself with others who are more experienced in certain arenas than you. So one, never be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to put yourself in a room where you may not be the smartest person. You definitely want to surround yourself with people as well. um, and then as you really think about, how do you create programs that are very meaningful, that may be able to go to scale, that's just beyond the efforts of one individual by themselves, is to think about partnerships. So partnerships are another great way to add value on several different levels. One level is production and scale. So, at times we've partnered with banks, for example, um, on the very first multifamily housing project that we were able to do. We partnered with the very first single family housing that we did, and from that partnerships, we really gained the capacity and the skill sets to continue. And then we partner with other private sector developers as well to increase our scale. So partnerships are highly critical and important to this. There also may be avenues where you can create lanes for yourself as well. So we've also partnered with our local habitat, and they go in and they build homes at 80% AMI, and we build homes above 80% AMI in partnership with them. So we focus on the workforce housing as well. So it's another way to create lanes, but also still focus on the same thing. So you're not viewing yourself as competitors, but more so as partners in helping the communities that you're serving. And then I think the last thing is just around when you set visions, also think about the approach or what the stakeholder interest is. So some people get really excited about emotional things when you talk about being able to help a specific family or a specific youth to really become sustainable and self-sufficient. That's enough for them that the heartstrings are drawn into it. But some people may think about return on investment. What does it mean for their business to get involved? What does it mean for the municipality to invest in you? What's in it for them? So also think about the return on investment. So as you begin to formulate your vision and your thoughts, also think about the stakeholders and what would draw them in to participate and partner with you.
Yeah, absolutely. What I particularly like about what you said is that partnership aspect of it. That's goal number 17 on the SDGs, partnerships for the goals. And so we try to bring in as many partners and collaborators as possible, because those are the type of individuals and organizations that might be able to help address an issue that hasn't been addressed before, or resolve a solution that we don't yet have one for. So I absolutely love what you said there. And it sounds like a lot of the work you're doing is paving the way. You're kind of at the front of doing a lot of this that other organizations haven't before. And so how has innovation played a role in the development and the rollout of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, and innovation is critically important. And my background was in healthcare. And one of the things that I was able to bring forward was the thought process in healthcare. So even though a lot of healthcare companies are nonprofits, from nonprofit hospitals that are research and teaching hospitals to several HMOs that are also nonprofit, was it's not the designation um, that you build your model around. It's really the business practice and having return on investments and be able to reach outcomes. It just so happens that the tax setup is such that you're a nonprofit. So bringing that over into our industry, we have to think about how we utilize technology and how we utilize innovation. So, for example, during the Great Recession, there was such a huge need in helping people with foreclosure mitigation. We actually were able to expand statewide by utilizing phone as well as your traditional Zoom that most people hadn't really been introduced to, and it was a way for us to expand statewide to provide services. So fortunately, when COVID hit, we had already had some level of experience or some level of interaction utilizing technology to really help us to expand our services. So with that expansion, not only do you get an opportunity to expand geographically, but then you also can go deeper into the program offerings that you have as well. So with our workforce, we're able to also offer programs online as well. So we can begin to touch a lot more people. So instead of being, where you only can have a certain number of people come into a class in a geographic space or in a building, you can begin to expand that and have online learning as well. So technology is critically important to expand both geographically as well as touch points to go deeper. Um, but it also helps to communicate with our clients and with our community and our residents as well. So that's the other side of it that really helps. So if you can imagine having youth programs that we have, um, where kids love their cell phones, right? So now we have a lot of the technology that can send them texts, send them email reminders, all those great things, and software that people can actually use their telephone. So imagine just grabbing your phone and you can go and log in to the software system and do your intake, get information about what's going on, reach your goals. You can continue to measure your goals and see kind of a benchmark or that kind of platform that kind of shows you what your goals are and how close you are to your goals, especially for the youth. That's really critical to really have them engaged in such a way. So innovation really helps with communicating and staying engaged with your customers or clients, as well as being able to expand geographically.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And a lot of organizations were kind of faced with that force to innovation, but it sounds like you and your organization accepted that, allowed it to expand your reach and ultimately achieve your mission in a broader, greater area to more individuals, which is absolutely incredible. And so it sounds like a lot of what you've been doing, we've been hearing a lot of the successes of it. And so, what has been one of the greatest challenges along this journey?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple challenges that you will begin to face. One, as you work, especially in the nonprofit arena, it's having funding that's sustainable to keep the partnerships together. So, oftentimes when you're in this arena, a lot of organizations have to focus on their own survival, right? Their own economic viability. So at times, the things that you were able to come together and agree on was really centered around, the funding keeping people together. So as the funding may go away, so sometimes, grants may be a year, grants may be 3 years, grants may be 5 years, but thinking about the sustainability of those projects or those programs and those collaborations is also critically important. And at times, some of them can't be because it's just so much need out there. You may not be able to keep the dedication and focus that you were able to achieve. But one of the challenges is around if when funding goes away, how do you maintain those services and those collaborations to continue the efforts that you're trying to push forward. Another interesting concept is around being able to measure successes, right, is also challenging. So it's like it's a great award, but it's also challenging as well. So you think about community development work and what that really means. So as you begin to build houses and neighborhoods, you know, how does the neighborhood change? How does perspectives of the neighborhood change? So you have like these qualitative indicators that you really need to be able to measure. So you have to get out and do surveys or have survey instruments that will allow for that type of qualitative data, because just building the house is a production that you can see and view, but what does it really mean for the community? What does it really mean for the community to have a banking institution that we're able to bring into the community? What does it mean to have more graduates graduate from high school? So some of the things that you measure are also qualitative. So being able to measure those is also critically important and is a challenge at times.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that. It kind of sounds like they each play a role within each other. You need that data analytics to show what the community has grown and what it's done to possibly achieve more funding. And I certainly hear how it's absolutely essential that you have to continue to go, even when the funding isn't necessarily consistent or sustainable, as you said. You can't stop that mission because those are the
Right.
individuals who still need your work and your mission that your company is trying to achieve. So I guess pivoting a little bit, what has been one of your greatest points of pride in the work that you do?
So one of the reasons why I transitioned from healthcare, previously working for HMOs, and to this industry was because of the great satisfaction that you get in really helping people, helping neighbors, helping individuals achieve their goals. There's no greater satisfaction than to see someone start at one place and end up at another place, knowing that they were really able to achieve their aspirational goals. So I have hundreds of things that I'm really excited about. I'll just kind of give you a couple of examples. One is a guy named Jamie. Jamie was a disabled veteran who relocated from New York to Florida, and he thought that he would never be able to own a home. He actually raised his niece and nephew as well. And when he moved to Tampa, he was introduced to the CDC of Tampa, and we built a home for him. We helped him to move into that home, and when he got the keys to that house, he took the keys and he just started crying, and he handed them to his wife. And if you understood the backstory to that, again, he never thought he would be able to own a home. He never thought that he would be the provider that he wanted to be, especially understanding his, service to this great nation, and his sacrifice to this great nation, being shot down as a helicopter pilot as well. So just tremendous opportunities to see people grow and achieve their great aspirations. Um, Another great story is we had a youth in one of our youth programs, and he wanted to be a baseball player, of course. And we were able to take him on college tours, and he ended up going to Florida A&M, here in Florida, and became a general contractor, eventually. So he actually came back. He was the foreman on the building that I'm in right now. He was a foreman on this project, and now the other homes that we build as new construction and rehab, he's also a GC that works with us on some of our projects. So to see it all come back full circle from the initial investment as a youth, making sure that he graduated from college, to now him helping us to help transform and stabilize the communities, is really something very, very special, um, that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, two incredible examples of just the work that you guys are doing and the dedication and the mission that you're really helping at a community level. I mean, one, we thank Jamie for his service, and two, the fact that you saw that second story come full circle, and now you're sitting in a building he was the foreman at is just incredible to hear that. And so, looking forward, at the future, and if you could forecast out 5 to 10 years, what impact do you want your work to have had of the Tampa Bay or Suncoast region of Florida?
Yeah, so our vision and mission really talk about a thriving Tampa Bay. And when I began to really think about that, what does that mean for me? There's a couple of components to it. One of the components is removing disparities. So as you think about wealth disparities based upon race, employment, home ownership, really thinking about those disparities, and those are things that we can easily do and really achieve and bring parity and equality. So removing some disparities is definitely one thing, especially in education and wealth, as well as home ownership, is definitely critically important, for us to really think about and what we can do to do that. And we've been on this journey for quite a while now. So we've created over 3,000 homeowners, and we've built close to 500 units of affordable housing as well. And we know we can get there, especially as partners. Um, and think about great policies that America has created, from the GI Bill and what that meant for GIs to be introduced to middle class. Thinking about different policies like that, and how we can also leverage those policies to create new opportunities for families who may be struggling as well, to help them, just the old vernacular, kind of tighten your bootstraps and helping yourself. Those are the kind of economic opportunities that we are critically excited about, and really want to focus on. So being able to touch and address those disparities is definitely one piece of it. The second piece of it is, I tell people all the time, when I lay my head down, eventually, I hope to have a transitionless city and a transitionless region. And what I mean by that is, currently, when you drive through places, especially in the urban cores, as you transition from one area to another, you can physically see the difference, in despair, the difference in economic vitality. You can feel the levels of poverty, literally, as you drive through certain neighborhoods, um, disinvestment, disenfranchisement as well. So, one of my goals is to make sure that every community can reach its potential. Every person can reach their God given abilities as well, so that we have no disparities in our region, and we have a transitionless city.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am blown away by that, Ernest. And it sounds like you and your organization with your leadership is touching thousands of lives in your community. And not only that, but you're addressing many of the UN global goals. We see an organization might be addressing one or striving to address one. And just off the top of my head, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, and partnerships for the goals. I mean, there's three right there. I'm sure there's more that we could talk about. So I'm absolutely blown away. And as we begin to wrap up here with this inspirational power chat, are there any final words of advice for our viewers and listeners? What have you learned in the work that you do that others should know?
Yeah, one of my great takeaways, and one of the things we talk about a lot is, we peddle hope a lot around here, and we talk about what's the difference between winning and losing. What's the difference between a champion and someone who does not succeed? It's simply around not giving up hope. No matter what, if you fall down, get back up. There's hope for a better tomorrow. So that's something that we oftentimes talk to our customers and our clients about, is that to be resilient, the one thing you have to be resilient, you have to be hopeful. The one thing that you have to be to continue to push and set goals for tomorrow, you have to be hopeful. You have to be aspirational. So that's one thing that I definitely talk about a lot, is to always keep your hope and keep your faith. There's always the promise of a better day tomorrow. With just a little bit more work, you can get there. So that's definitely one of the areas that we oftentimes talk about and really push. To be passionate, you have to be hopeful, right? You have to be aspirational. To be innovative, you also have to still remain hopeful that you can achieve something. And great leaders always know that. Great communities also begin to resemble that as well. So you think about, Walt Disney losing his first job and what he was able to go on to do. You think about Oprah Winfrey losing her first job and what she was able to go on and do. So you have to always remain hopeful and keep the faith.
Peddling hope. I love that, and I think that should right there be the title of this power chat. If there were more people like you, Ernest, and your organization out there, we will certainly achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So I thank you for your work and your mission that you're doing. Ernest Coney, Chief Executive Officer at Corporation Developed Communities of Tampa. Thank you for bringing us insights into the Suncoast region of Florida and all the work that you're doing. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, John.